She was a broke single mother, standing in a grocery store line, humiliated because she couldn't afford baby food. Then, a stranger stepped forward and quietly paid for everything, and walked away without giving his name. She thought she'd never see him again. But 15 years later, in the middle of a life-or-death emergency, fate brought them back together. And this time, it was her turn to save him. It was a rainy Tuesday in Newark, New Jersey. The kind of day where the gray skies press down on you and every little thing feels heavier than it should. Inside a small grocery store tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop, a young woman named Emily stood frozen in line, her heart pounding in her chest. She clutched a small basket filled with just a few essentials: a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, some eggs, and 2 jars of baby food for her daughter, Lily, waiting at home. She had done the math in her head 3 times before stepping into the store, but when the cashier read the total, her stomach dropped. She was short, not by much, just a few dollars, but enough to make the air around her feel suffocating. Emily's throat tightened as she searched through her wallet, pulling out wrinkled bills and loose change, hoping somehow she had miscalculated. Behind her, a man sighed loudly. Another muttered something under his breath about people holding up the line. The cashier's expression turned impatient. Her cheeks burned. In a trembling voice, she whispered, "I'll put the baby food back." And that's when it happened. A deep, calm voice from behind her said, "Don't worry about it. I've got it." Startled, Emily turned around. Standing there was a man in his mid-30s, dressed in a brown work shirt and tie, holding a small basket of his own. He had kind eyes and a presence that felt grounding in the middle of her storm. His name was David. Without hesitation, he handed the cashier his card, covering not just her missing balance but the entire bill. Every item in her basket. Emily stared at him, stunned, tears blurring her vision. She stammered, I can't accept this." But he smiled softly and said, "We all need a little help sometimes." And just like that, he took his receipt, nodded politely, and left, disappearing into the drizzle outside. Emily stood there frozen, clutching her bag of groceries, her chest aching from the weight of his unexpected kindness. She didn't even get to say thank you properly. She thought she'd never see him again. But 15 years later, on a night when life and death hung in the balance, their paths would cross in a way neither could have imagined. And this time, it would be Emily holding the power to save him. Emily never forgot that day. She carried it with her like a quiet secret, something she pulled from the edges of her memory on nights when the weight of life felt unbearable. That single act of kindness became her reminder that even in a world that can be cold and indifferent, good people exist. Over the years, she struggled and fought, raising Lily on her own. She finished nursing school, working 2 jobs, juggling sleepless nights and unpaid bills, determined to give her daughter the life she never had. By the time Lily entered high school, Emily had built a stable life and earned a respected position as a nurse in the emergency department of St. Francis Hospital. She thought she'd left the hardest parts of her life behind. But life has a way of looping back when you least expect it. Across town, David's life had unfolded along a very different path. After that grocery store day, he barely thought twice about his small act of generosity. He focused on his career, climbing the corporate ladder, building wealth, buying the kind of home he used to only dream about. But success came at a cost. Years of stress, long hours, skipped meals, and quiet loneliness wore him down. At 50, his health was failing in ways he didn't fully understand or maybe refused to acknowledge. One stormy night, 15 years after the grocery store, Emily was on her 4th consecutive ER shift. The emergency department was chaos. Ambulances pulling in one after another, doctors shouting orders, monitors beeping, patients moaning in pain. Suddenly, paramedics burst through the doors with a middle-aged man on a stretcher. 50-year-old male, one of them called out. Collapsed at a restaurant, no pulse when we arrived, we got him back en route. History of chest pain. Emily rushed forward, her training taking over, gloving up as she moved alongside the gurney. She checked vitals, started chest compressions, and barked instructions without thinking. Then she leaned over to intubate and froze. For a moment, the noise of the ER faded. The face beneath the oxygen mask, though older, drawn, and pale, was unmistakable. Her breath caught in her throat. It was him, David, the man who, 15 years ago, had saved her from humiliation, who had bought her groceries without asking for anything in return. And now, here he was, on the brink of death, unconscious, his life hanging by a thread, and she was the one standing between him and the end. But in a room where every second counted, hesitation could cost him his life. Emily had a choice to make: keep her head down, or fight like hell to repay the kindness that had once saved her. Her hands trembled as she steadied herself, adrenaline surging through her veins. She locked eyes with the attending physician and said firmly, "I've got him." And with that, Emily took control of the code, knowing this was no longer just another patient. This was fate pulling her into the same current she thought she had escaped 15 years ago. But no one in that ER, not even Emily, knew yet if she would be strong enough to bring him back. The next 30 minutes felt like a lifetime. Emily led the team through rounds of chest compressions, defibrillation shocks, and carefully timed medications. Sweat dripped down her forehead, her arms burned, but she didn't stop. Not for a single second. In her mind, flashes of that grocery store moment replayed over and over, fueling her determination. The man who once helped her buy baby food for Lily could not die here. Not like this. Then, finally, after what felt like an eternity, one of the monitors let out a steady, rhythmic beep. David's heart was beating on its own again. A wave of relief swept over the room. Emily stepped back, her legs trembling, tears stinging her eyes. He was alive. Hours later, David opened his eyes in the ICU. His gaze wandered the room until it landed on Emily, standing quietly at his bedside. At first, he didn't recognize her. 15 years is a long time, and life had weathered them both. But when she softly said, "Do you remember me?" his brow furrowed, curious. Then she whispered, "The grocery store, the baby food, 15 years ago." It hit him like a tidal wave. His lips parted, his hand trembled, and tears filled his eyes. He whispered hoarsely, "I never thought I'd see you again." Emily smiled through her own tears and said softly, "That day, you saved me when you didn't have to. Tonight, I returned the favor." David reached for her hand, his voice breaking. "I just wanted to help." Emily squeezed his hand gently. "And you did, more than you'll ever know." For a long moment, they sat there in silence. Two lives once separated by chance, now bound forever by fate. One simple act of kindness had come full circle, rewriting both of their stories in ways neither could have imagined. And maybe that's the lesson hidden here, that the smallest choices, the ones we barely think about, the ones we make without expecting anything in return, can echo across years, across lives, and return to us when we least expect it. Because kindness never dies, finds its way back, always. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life forever, then help us share more stories like this. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that might just change the way you see the world.